comes to the aha moment and using it as a descriptor for the INFJ personality type, one of the most ridiculous ones that I've heard was an example of saying there might be a friend who is in a car accident and the INFJ suddenly has a realization that their friend has been hurt in some way. That's not an aha moment. That is a psychic phenomenon. And I'm not saying things like that don't happen, but that is not what the aha moment is. That's not what it's talking about. We're talking about a cognitive function and how information can appear to those with NI, Introverted Intuition, as their dominant function. But everybody has introverted intuition. Everybody has this phenomenon. It's just that maybe they haven't been able to pinpoint it as much compared to those with NI as their first function. So we're going to explain what the aha moment is in relation to the cognitive functions. There was a study done, and it showed kind of children and how they learn with their different personality types, different cognitive functions. And for the SE, and we're only going to use these two just to keep that contrast and keep the conversation focused. So the SE children were seen to be okay with experimenting, with kind of getting a math problem and trying it out. And they're more willing to try this version and then cross that out and try it again and cross it out and kind of keep playing with it until they figured out the right answer. Whereas the children with NI were more likely to just kind of sit and, stare at the problem. Maybe they might be doodling or scribbling but more than likely they're just kind of sitting there. And one thing that I wanted to remember when we talk about introverted intuition is that it is an unconscious function. In other words, they're not sitting there trying to puzzle it out. And it's not like a TI kind of let me go through the logic gate. It is nothing. It is like meditation. It is a let me kind of clear my mind, and I don't get to be part of the process. It's not an active function. It's a passive function. So whenever that child is sitting there staring at the math problem, the teacher might look at them and wonder, like, when are you going to get started? Here is the child with SE, extroverted sensing, and they're sitting there, they're working furiously trying to figure out the math problem. And the NI child is just staring into space. So the teacher might go over to them and kind of poke them and be like, hey, you're going to get started. And then, suddenly the child kind of comes back to reality, back to their senses and starts writing it down. So both of them hand in their papers. And the child with SE, you can see where they kind of figured it out by testing it out. And the child with NI has the answer. They don't have any of their work showing. They just have the answer. And that's NI. NI comes to a fully realized answer, and they don't necessarily know how they got there. So let me give you another real world example of NI at work. So we had this guy, and he went on vacation. He goes and he doesn't want to think about work, doesn't want to think about anything. He just wants to go to the ocean, and he's just enjoying his vacation. So in his mind, he just gets to let go, gets to enjoy the ocean, and he's staring at the ocean, and he gets an idea for something, more like an image. And he's not sure what it is. And he looks down and he starts drawing these lines in the sand. And this ended up being the creation of the barcode. Something that we use worldwide now. And that's the thing. That's kind of what NI is it's this meditative state of not thinking about anything. It's this meditative state of just kind of being completely passive and letting your mind go to wherever it wants to go. And when it's ready, it'll come out with an answer. And it's a fully realized answer. And that's what the aha moment is. So let me give you an explanation of how I experience an I. I'm going to try and explain it to you as best I can. So whenever you are thinking you're in the NI state, you are passive. You don't really get to think about anything. You don't get to, whenever you're trying to figure out a problem, you're not thinking it through necessarily. It is like you're a third person view of your mind, and you don't get to be a part of it. And the best way I could kind of give you a metaphor or analogy is like looking at a cloud, and that cloud is your mind. And it's like you get to be sort of there watching it a little bit. And maybe you're seeing kind of, parts lighting up. And maybe even while you're watching your mind go through its thing, you're daydreaming about other things. And while you're doing that, your mind is working, but you're so kind of, you're so detached from it that it's not active. And all those different parts that are lighting up, maybe they're little bits of thoughts, maybe little bits of imagery, and suddenly this light comes up and you catch it. And that is that aha moment. This is suddenly something comes fully formed. This is a knowing, a fully formed knowing of something, and you know it completely. And the thing is, you don't know how you got there. You suddenly just know something fully, deeply. It's a truth. And you almost know it so deeply that you have to almost try to understand and go and put the pieces together to figure out how you even got here. It's like that comes after. You almost go backwards, putting the pieces together to how you got here. So you're going backwards to catch up to this because it came so quick. And let me give you a more real world example for something that you might have experienced. So even if you're not an NI dominant, you might have had this experience yourself. Everybody has all the functions. You've had aha moments, even if you're not an NI dominant. And it might have been you. Maybe you're in the shower. Maybe you're washing dishes, and you're just kind of in this state where you're not really thinking about what you're doing. Your mind's just kind of wandering. And let me give you a terrible example of that aha moment. Maybe as you're doing this, you suddenly realize your partner's cheating on you. You go, oh my gosh, I just realized. And it's like your mind has to catch up. When they said this, that's why they said this. And whenever this happened, that's why they went to this place and they told me this lie. And that was when this person, and suddenly like everything's catching up. But when in that moment, when you were just being passive, all of a sudden it just came to you. And that's the aha moment. That's the knowing. That's the best way that I can describe it to you, as to a sudden knowing, the aha moment. And I hope that you've had an aha moment about hitting the like and subscribe. I don't use any kind of AI scripts. I don't use scripts at all. I just talk to you like a normal human being. And I hope that's worth something. I hope that's worth a like. And you should totally check out some other videos about INFJs. I'll put a couple here, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for stopping by.